A couple of years ago you'd have seen me make a number of these timber planters out of non-treated timber, and a number of you said they wouldn't even last a season or two. So I'm going to pick the worst one that I can find out of the ones dotted around my house to refurbish it and to see how that non-treated timber after 2 years is holding up. I've chosen a planter that has been in the front of the house for the last 2 years, being attacked by the rain and the sun for most of the day, and it looks like it's desperately in need of a bit of a refurb. The first thing I need to do is to remove the sorry looking plant, which I think has sucked all of the nutrients out of the soil, but may still survive if I plant it in the ground soon. You'll notice that I used some expanded polystyrene as a void former when I planted these. This time around I won't use these, as I've now got a good supply of homemade compost to hand. So just a bit of background on these planters. When I made them a couple of years ago, we were just coming out of the pandemic and timber was still really expensive. Not that it's got any cheaper since, but that's by the by. So to save money, I used plain 3x2 CLS timber rather than treated. Because also I thought after a couple of years we'd probably want to upgrade something around the house, and these would probably end up on the bonfire. As it is, we've got used to these. I still want these around the house. It's time to refurbish, but also I'm very keen to see how my plain timber is getting on, and I did a couple of things just to help it out and help it survive a little bit. And the first thing was line it with plastic. This is a DPM material that I put in here to make sure that the soil didn't stay in contact continuously with the wood and the water wouldn't actually touch the timber in any way. The other thing I did, just to help out and keep the thing a little bit more durable, was to put some plastic feet on the bottom just to elevate it. So when it either rains or when you water the plants in this and you end up with a few millimeters of water on the ground, the plastic feet are in contact with it rather than the timber. Which, looking at it, seems to work quite nicely, because this timber here, although it is painted, doesn't look like there's any evidence of being weathered. So definitely that seems to have worked. But what I'm more interested in is the inside, where it's not even painted. So I think I need to pull this apart and have a look, see what's going on.
Whoosh! Nasty.
So this is the base that I used treated timber with. So let's have a quick look at this, if I can take some of this fabric off. And the reason I used treated timber was, obviously being on the base, I knew that this was going to get the most grief even when I watered it in the summer. Roots and that in there. These marks here, these are the staples that I used, which weren't stainless steel, and it's a little bit damp, but it's not, I'll stick it in, but it's not dead soft. So that seems to be holding up as I'd expect it to, and I think that's doing fairly well, but it is treated, so not really surprised. Let's have a look at the more interesting one, the non-treated. So while I spend 20 minutes taking out all of these excessive staples that I put in a couple of years ago, it's a good time for me to mention about Patreon and about the way that you can help support the channel and see additional material every week from both inside the workshop and when I'm out and about doing other YouTube duties. It's only £3. I've tried to make it as affordable as possible. And if you're interested in behind the scenes and what I'm getting up to both on this channel and future channels, then become a Patreon and you'll be able to see an additional video every week and various conversations and questions and answers and all of that. Anyway, enough about that. I think, wow, that's still pretty bright. Wow, I wasn't quite expecting it to look like that. I don't know what I was expecting it to look like, but that looks the same as it did the day I put it together 2 years ago. I must say, I'm pretty impressed with that. There's a couple of areas where I can see damp in the corner here. I don't know if you can see that. A little bit wetter along the joint here. And one thing that I was a little bit worried about was even if the water didn't go through the plastic, which I know it's not going to, there's no room for the timber to dry out. So it could just be sweating and like moist all the time, even if it's not getting completely rained upon or wet, because I'm watering these in the summer literally every day. Now there's some areas that are a little bit damper than others. Let's have a feel of those. And these are a little bit damp, but they're not soft in any way, and you wouldn't say that that was a sort of major rot. It's just damp. Oh, that's quite impressive. I know, let me get my moisture meter and see the moisture content of this timber. First of all, let's do a test to see what the moisture content is on some general timber here in the workshop. So this is my workbench that I made around about 23 years ago and has never sat outside. So what's that? 16.2, which isn't surprising because I really found that any timber that hasn't been inside is around about 15 to 18%. Let's have a look at this. Wow, 17.5%. Put it in that top section. 22.3. It's not surprising because this piece of timber here is sort of exposed to the elements. Let's try that again. 23.4. 19.6. So I would say that's a bit of a success really. To have timber sitting up to about 22, maybe 24% moisture, sitting outside is not uncommon. In time, at that moisture content, I think it will rot. But this is 2 years old now and it's still looking pretty new. So yes, eventually it will rot, but so will treated timber as well. So I'm really pleased about that. And I think that just helps me realise that actually just protecting the timber, even if there is a bit of moisture between the plastic and the timber, it's not going to suddenly fall apart. Not over a year or two anyway. And everything that I can feel in here is still really firm, and most of it looks like it did 2 years ago, to be honest. So anyway, I'm going to put the plastic back because that's obviously working. I'm going to put the base on, give it a bit of a rub down and then repaint it.
Baby, we
So there you are. I'm putting it here just around the corner. It's just a bit more protected, which I think it'll need for a few days until the weather gets a little bit better. And I must admit, I really like the colours that my wife has picked here. The combination of the reds and the greens. And obviously all of this is going to grow far too big for this planter, which means that probably in a month's time I'll take 1 or 2 of them out and have a bit of a change around. But what I'm really pleased about is that these planters are showing 0 signs of decay at the moment. That's after 2 years, which means all of them are surviving quite nicely. So I think I'll refurbish all of them, get them looking smart for summer. And if you're thinking about building something like this, you now have the confidence that it's actually going to last more than 1 season. I'm going to do a recap on this maybe 2 or 3 years time, and I reckon I will put my money on the fact it's still going to look the same. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.